all you beautiful brave hearts. I'm Cheryl Serta, Master Practitioner here in Northern California, Occidental Health and Healing. And I'm so excited to be hosting with Dr. Judy Mikovits and the Real Dr. Judy Show, because every time she comes on, I learn something phenomenal. I actually take notes because I use this for all of my clients and patients, and together we're working on somebody. So today I know I'm going to be taking really good notes. So with no further ado, let me introduce Dr. Judy. Hi, how are you doing today?
Oh, good morning. I'm doing wonderful. It's a perfect day.
Yes, it is. Go ahead. So today we're going to be talking about, I know we started not too long ago. Gosh, it feels like it's been a couple of weeks since you and I talked. However, it hasn't been, but maybe a week, because I know that things happen and I couldn't host, so I'm not sure what happened in my absence. However, we're back. And
Yes.
when we left off, we were talking about the pro-immune and how important it was for our body and the system, and talking about inflammation, because underlying every issue is the inflammation in the body and how it circumvents the process of actual cellular function on any level. Was that pretty much right?
Yeah, that's correct. So where we were, this is a PowerPoint that we've been diving in over the last pretty much 2 months, and it's about inflammaging. So it's inflammaging, exactly what you said. These aren't diseases of aging. They're dysregulation of our innate, our sensors, our innate immune response. And so this PowerPoint we started, it's called nutrient sensing. So it's not supplements versus nutrients, it's nutrients. It's molecular, gas exchange versus chemical amino acid metabolism and then lipid metabolism. So our friends, Dr. Ted Fogarty, an expert in radiation, he's a radiologist, and Dr. Albert Crum, who is, I think, 93 years old, and for decades, literally long before COVID, Ted and I worked together, considering radiation damage to our genes, and we're the two key things of all things COVID really was radiation poisoning, the radiation virus that you're going to get from the 5G. You see, I'm wearing my Tesla glasses again. And my glasses that really help us control the sensing through our eyes. And so all the horrible things that we're not sensing because we're not getting nutrients. So if we notice always the dates of these papers, this was genes and development. It's the epigenetics. It's the environmental toxins on the expression of our genes. So this is what, the Trump Kennedy administration are doing is trying to show people, the American people, that at every level of our environment, our food is poison. Our water is poison. The air is poison because of what we're blocking the light. We've got metallics out of these, geoengineering, these chemical trails that are sprayed, and are literally ending up on our skin through our senses. So we're not sensing things because we're literally in inflammaging all the time. And if at the level of your blood, hematopoietic stem cell, the first slide we've gone over many times every time we do this, if you're inflamed, you cannot switch at the molecular level, gas exchange. You can't conduct the energy that's shown right here in the top of this slide on the left from this 2012 paper. So, our science paper showing you all the spike variant lipoproteins that have been injected predicted infection by injection. And we talked last week about electroporation. What is that? Oh, that might be applying an electrical charge to transfer a poison across a membrane. So we put what we put on our skin, what we put in our eyes, but more importantly, not supplements, but nutrients. So this Genes in Development paper explain why glucose versus glutamine in the trichloric acetic acid cycle, the TCA cycle. What is aerobic? Oh, that's aerobic activity. You're using energy. Well, your mitochondria, the energy storehouses of your cells, are in your heart, your lungs, and your muscles, your heart, your brain, and your muscles. So your brain is a lump of fat with these sensors in it, with a hard shell of bone, and we're pulling nutrients out of our bones because we don't get minerals linked to plants according to the genetic code, and then we've loaded our water, our beverages, with electrolytes that are synthetic. We're using synthetic nutrients and not powdered and liquid nutrients from the soil, because Roundup and glyphosate, they're not weed killers, they're soil killers. So actually our plants aren't providing nutrients. Our willow bark won't make N-acetyl salicylic acid. It won't make aspirin anymore. And your government's known that, as you be poisoned since 1938. So here's just the simple insets from the figure of at the molecular level, the decision-making process. When I say molecular, I mean an atom. At the atomic level, you can only see a virus with an electron micrograph, an electron. But a microbe, a parasite, can also be a microbe that is 10 to the minus 6, a microscope. And so at the nanometer level, nano is 10 to the minus 9. Micro is 10 to the minus 6. Well, at every level down to this single molecule, an atom, your God's nature, natural law, true only science, the truth, nothing having to do with man-made or synthetic. So we poisoned our animals, we poisoned our food, we poisoned our soil. So 93-year-old Dr. Albert Crumb, a long time ago, partnered up with Dr. Ted Fogarty in radiation. And Dr. Ted and I were the only two people invited by Epoch Times on March 6, 2020. And we were asked by Epoch Times and the Chinese, only us, to provide the solutions for all things COVID. Well, COVID is the radiation poisoning. COVID is the 5G. COVID is the towers that went up. What happens when you put a mask on your face? Any mask. Hypoxia-inducible factor 1 alpha. And I like to call it inflammatory factor, because when you're inflamed, you are going to shift the production away from building the body, away from the mesenchymal stem cell and the neuroprogenitor cell. So the left corner, and this is shown easily. There's your nucleic acid, there's your fatty acids, there's your amino acids. So nucleic acids, A, T, C, and G, adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. Oh, and in the mRNA, it's uracil. So we know they put pseudo fake uracil in every capital mRNA shot, synthetic, manufactured since 2009. Because when our science paper came out, October 23rd of 2009, showing you all the variants of all the spike proteins of every COVID or long COVID causing since, why don't we just say 1934? And that's why our books and what we're doing on June 8th to educate and show the heroes turn healers of the faith are those people that for at least 4 decades have listened to me, like Ted Fogarty, and I understood Albert Crumb's formulation here, a powder that is glutamine, um, L-cysteine, L meaning left-handed. Everything in nature is left-handed on this earth. That's not synthetic. If there's no L on it, it's not natural. It's synthetic. And so you have to know what you're looking at in the development of the nutrients and they are not supplements. And then the last one is glycine. So when you have glycine, because of the level of glyphosate in our environment, in our soil, in our food, and this was really brilliantly done on yesterday's thehighwire.com and in everything that Trump and Secretary Kennedy are showing you. So please watch CHD TV or the Informed Consent Action Network from yesterday, thehighwire.com, because you're going to see the hearings that Ron Johnson held in the Senate. And it's about vaccine injury, but as we know, it's about so much more. If we can't get the dyes out of our food, if we're not drinking water, if we're not getting the nutrients to fuel our liver, this is your liver support. Your liver is key towards your hematopoietic stem cell. The fetal liver in the children, Dr. Jim Thorpe, who's showing you the abortions caused by this shot, showing you the deadly failure to thrive, the sterilization. I hope we have Dr. Thorpe on the show. We're still working out on June 8th because he's going to educate you with his book and what he and beautiful Dr. Deb Viglione and Dr. Kim Best showed. So we have here the people being, queried in the government, but there are also some not honest people lacking integrity in those hearings as well. And I will always name names because they're not in integrity and they're deceiving you. And the two key ones in that congressional hearing were Dr. Peter McCullough and the governor of Hawaii. And the governor of Hawaii was also on the high wire, interrogated, it's a nice word, by Del Bigtree, and he did a beautiful job yesterday, Thursday, which is why I like to come in on both Mondays and Fridays, because this is the close of the week as we practice our Sabbath rest at sundown and then fuel our souls and get a level of peace and watch what God does with your work each week as you open your minds and listen. So, the glucose, all you need are glucose, lipids, and glutamine. And it's right there. When you can't get to alpha ketoglutarate in the top right, which is the form of the nutrient supplied, people can't get into ketosis because their meat's not clean. That was also on the show yesterday. So there was a great deal of discussion in Maha. Oh, well, wait a minute. If the farmers have to go back to nitrogen, to God's nitrogen, our soil being fertilized by cow poop and the whole idea of urotherapy, if you will. The therapy is for our soil. The therapy is for our plants. Our plants aren't food. Anything GMO, genetically modified, is not of God. And that's literally 90% of our food. This is why so Dell raised concerns reasonably, because it's like, yeah, Now the cows stopped having cows. Well, it was no different. And it said right there in the slide, the feed. Oh, the feed. Yeah, what was the feed? The feed is synthetic. Just like the birds fed Purina feed in early 2023, stopped laying eggs. And there, when I was on tour with Ed Dowd in the Crimes Against Humanity's tour in Hawaii, and also with the beautiful Dr. Stephanie Seneff in the glyphosate, her book, The Toxic Legacy of Glyphosate, you see how they know they've killed the soil. We'll have Dr. Rich Orley on as well in his book, Minerals According to the Genetic Code. So we're grateful for you, and we love you very much, Cheryl, that you'll accept, because these kids, and the family I presented to you, from grandfather to father to 17-year-old son, type 1 diabetes is absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt vaccine injury. And that corrupt governor from Hawaii literally said, "Oh, look what I just discovered in my 4,000 people in 20 clinics across the world. I'm raking in the dough after we've poisoned 7%. I'm calling it long COVID. And look, oh, we see different phenotypes. That's expression of the genes." Yeah, because there, exactly, that was our work in our 2009 science paper. I can show you Lyme is a place in Connecticut, Lyme, and that's G protein 15. That's the sensors that are sensing, and this is our Anustat. This is our patent from 2010 with the company Genius Omnitura that we've shown you in the first few slides of this nutrient sensing. So you see what Dr. Crum did, and I appreciated and was so grateful to finally meet him in New York on March 6, 2020. And as you know, I always speak from fact. So from the audience, you're going to go to Joshua Phillips, Epoch Times, and it was aired April 8th, 2020. And it shows a smokestack in the background and Wuhan, and the smokestack in the background in Wuhan and Joshua Phillips. And you can even see me. That's the first time I ever knew what B-roll is. I'm in flip-flops, and it's freezing cold in New York. And there's condensation coming out of my mouth because as I talk to Joshua Phillips. So go find that, because I'm speaking from truth. And this is why that was even 3 weeks before the movie Plandemic and a week before our book, Ending Plague, A Scholar's Obligation in an Age of Corruption. So I appreciate a scholar is willing to learn and willing to admit they're wrong and willing to appreciate that they didn't know simple biochemistry and molecular biology. But we can also show from the fraud in the media and the continued lies to Congress. And this is a key picture in that. And people are being lied to about, well, Proimmune is literally in the physician's desk reference. Proimmune has been considered key to an immunization and prevention strategy and synergistic for healing all things COVID, whether it's OCD. There's no such thing as CIDP. That's multiple sclerosis. You simply changed the name since 2004. SARS-CoV-2 could not possibly have caused COVID because it was injected in every polio vaccine since 2004. So the criminal test that the criminal governor of Hawaii discussed yesterday on the high wire and in Congress, lied in Congress. Yeah, you knew this. And yeah, you knew every vaccine did this. And now you're taking children away from their parents and you're putting a Dexicon injection Oh, so you're not stopping the shots. You're just pretending like it was only vaccines. No, you created the injection. It isn't always was infection by injection, regardless of whether the Leidos machine in the airport is doing the injection by electroporation, PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic frequencies, because I'm not a biochemist. I have a PhD scientist in biochemistry and molecular biology. Things go from ice to water to gas. And the gas exchange is what is lost because, yes, this is vasculitis, our enos, endothelial nitric oxide synthetase. We don't make those enzymes because the glyphosate and the Roundup and the toxins, the metals, the aluminums, the oil, the things you're putting on your skin and in your face, the everything we've talked about is because you're not getting basic nutrients. You're not getting air, you're not getting water, you're not getting food, and neither are your plants and neither are your animals. So I do want to, probably move forward a little bit because a half hour on one slide's a little tough. But you see, we build our own amino acids. We generate lipophagy. So let's show the next slide. And you show again why. Well, yeah, this one. So here's your inflammaging at the lipid level. So it's dysregulation, and now everybody's saying it. Oh, it's dysregulation. That causes dis-ease. The symptom is at the molecular and cellular level, and your body senses every nanometer at the level of the light, every 10 to the minus 9, you make 1 billion 10 to the ninth stem cells, hematopoietic stem cells. White blood cells, red blood cells. If you are inflamed, you will never heal with the mesenchymal stem cell. God did not make replaceable parts. And all of those people putting those knees and hips in create a constant system of inflammation. You will never heal that low level inflammation. So here's the Annals of Neurology slide, and I show the slide that we've shown before with the aging. So everybody's forgotten about lipophagy. That, everybody's autophagy. No, you don't eat your cells, but there's no spike protein floating through your blood either. It's a spike lipid protein. It's always in a lipid nanoparticle. And every lipid nanoparticle that criminal Robert Malone created when he stole the data, that DARPA, we all know this now, because these are the people who weren't censored. So anybody sitting in front of Congress have two sorts: captured people like Jim Thorpe, beautiful Dr. Jim Thorpe. Deb Viglione wrote the book, Kim Bess, showing you how all of that this COVID shot is literally intended to sterilize the strongest in our population, and so this important right here at the middle of this slide summary we see there. Let me grab a pair of glasses so I can read it for you. Is metabolic neuropathy. Metabolic neuropathy. That's your leukocyte, white blood cell, recruitment, and chemokine. What are chemokines? They're trafficking molecules. It's the GPS on your car. How does it know where to go? And to the tissue inflammation sites. It's going to go directly there. Your cells are lipid microparticles. You see them with a microscope. You see the viruses, the sensors, your God-given endogenous virome in your genes. They sense the environment. These are not genetic disease. And they did not. We are not our DNA, we're our chromosomes. And your X chromosome is your viral. So it's going to send fire trucks to the fire. Interleukin 8 is the biomarker. Interleukin between white blood cells is the chemokine that is the GPS to send the fire trucks to the fire to exactly where the inflammation is the highest. Well, if all of your vasculature is leaky because of NF kappa B, because of glyphosate, NF kappa B is held in the cytoplasm of the cell by what is called inhibitor kappa B, by one single phosphate group. Phosphorylation is a kinase. Nattokinase is neither natto, fermented soybeans, or a kinase. So again, Peter McCullough has been perpetrating criminal fraud, selling people deadly drugs. Nattokinase is a drug. It's not a natural product. It has to be approved. These aren't biologics. They're not biologics. You don't inject yourself with biologics. You don't inject yourself with anything. So when Child Protective Services forces a father whose child was injured and given type 1 diabetes by a vaccine program that was untested ever. And of course, Trump is absolutely right on warp speed. Hey, I gave you the best single clinical trial of all times in warp speed because this hasn't been done since 1988. That's what he was trying to tell you. The injuries had Pfizer, Merck, and J&J not been complicit and colluding, RICO, racketeering, along with the governors, like the governor of Ohio, like with people like Peter McCullough, he cannot. He is not a scientist. He sat there in that Congress and said he was the chief scientific officer of a company. No, you're not a scientist. You never did. You don't have a PhD. You have an MD. He lied to Congress, and he's lying to the people, and he's selling a kit on TV where without a prescription, he's sending antibiotics and drugs to people that Robert O. Young's been arrested for practicing without a license. No, you're not a practicing virologist. And yet you're giving talks about spike protein and denying the poisoning and the deliberate murder of that 7% that's left of the 10 million Americans that were in that first slide. So here's your metabolic neuropathy, hyperglycemia, hyperlipidemia. Oh, yeah, our sugar levels are out of control because we don't have healthy fat. Synthetic fat, Twiggy, back to 1960s, because what they recognized is as long as your liver was getting healthy fats, you'd make everything. So they say alcohol is bad, not glycerol. No, yeah, what are you talking about? Well, we make glycerol. In our food, we should be getting glycerol. We need glutamate, L-cysteine. You don't take NAC or NAD. You don't know what you're doing. You don't supplement until you have a foundation of nutrients. Lipid metabolism. Dr. Darrell and I both told your corrupt government that cow milk in the 1980s was deadly poison. I did this at Upjohn. I showed if you gave bovine growth hormone, synthetic growth hormone to cows, and you had them eat corn, no, they metabolize grass, where they get dimethylglycine, we're not getting the methyl groups we need, which are the on-off switches of every gene stolen from the pool and being robbed from our bone. When our liver can't function, our bone marrows are literally impacted and dry, because just like the synovial fluid in our joints, there's no such thing as bone on bone. You've destroyed the ability to put the oils to oil your joints, your creaking, your cracking, arthritis, inflammation of the joints. It's right here. Metabolic neuropathy. Because if you're constantly sending the fire trucks to a fire because your entire vasculature is leaky, there's your NF kappa B. And if glyphosate's in your food everywhere, anywhere, then you can't get there from here. You will stay inflamed. And of course, the government knows this. So they're poisoning you faster than they can with their AI generated poison, which are functional forgery of the taxpayers' patents. David Martin, Plandemic Indoctrination. And then follow the science, silence. This is where we're going, and why it's so important for us to do the Braveheart Nation, June 8th, heroes turned healers of the faith, because the practitioners that stayed in it, like beautiful Jim Thorpe, beautiful Kim Best, when the gun was to their heads, and then they became captured when they were lied to by another, a Canadian criminal organization called TWC Wellness Company. How are we, the taxpayers, being cheated out of our own discoveries? Me, all the way back to Canada long before, and Epigenics Pharmaceuticals and Genius Biomeds, natural pharmaceuticals, companies that were destroyed intentionally with 911. Never let a good disaster go to break. So this is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm sorry, you don't androgen deplete. You don't androgen deplete. Androgens don't cause prostate cancer. This does, because you're accelerated aging, you're inflammaging. You don't uptake substrates. Your fatty acid oxidase doesn't work. You oxidize fatty acids. And so everybody's triglycerides, lipids are completely out of whack. So if people are smart enough, then they just gave them statins and they accelerated it. And then the good old drugs that actually worked, that were pennies, like losartan, they created one called olmesartan. And everybody thinks, oh, that's losartan, olmesartan. That's criminal, FDA, and we're coming after you, because you know what? You have absolutely no control. Like Daryl says, you know what? You have absolutely no control of our food. And this is why I found yesterday's show, and I love Del Bigtree, as he knows, because I know he's speaking my Cherokee side, and Mickey Willis is my sweet grandmother Hazel Willis's side. And and I know that he's speaking to me, and people have to hear this. Because we can get powdered foods, we can get liquid foods, we can get that beautiful IGF preparation that you sent to me. We can do the lymphatic, the clapping. We can open up our own vasculature and get our vasculature flowing again. Again, the Merigens, the whole line of I don't have them all memorized, but when you show the slides at the end of this talk. So the next slide shows you that the other place, mTOR, all the pancreatic cancer. It means mammalian target of rapamycin, not mechanistic target of rapamycin. All mammals have this pathway. Look again. Here's your glucose. Here's your growth factors. You can't grow if you're not getting nutrients that can turn down the flame. If you're inflamed, you won't grow. You'll say your mitochondria, you'll be exhausted. What feeds that? Leucine. Oh, is leucine an essential amino acid? And what does that mean? That means we've got to get it from our food. So they have weaponized our food, but again, with a few great liquid and powders, and that's what I'm telling your audience, you don't have to worry about the food supply. Get these products and get to these practitioners, and we'll cure this. God did not make oncogenes. Proto-oncogenes and oncogenes. This is all just a big lie. And now your groks and your AI are turning this into mechanistic target of rapamycin. All mammals have this pathway, critical to nutrient sensing, critical to decision processes, shown on the left-hand side. ATP goes down, reactive oxygen goes up, glutathione goes to make glutathione goes down. Mitochondrial potential, charge across a membrane. How many volts, Cheryl, do we have at every cellular level, as Dr. Darrell tell us each time? And then your own T cells make nitric oxide through nitric oxide synthetase. But if enos, an endothelial nitric oxide synthetase, is inflamed because every level of your vasculature, it's your endothelium. And this, I can't tell you how evil that corrupt governor from Hawaii was on that, both in Congress and lying and making a ton of money and continuing the experimentation on the people they already injured. Notice this paper is from 2010. This is what we were working on in our patent. We patented it. We presented it to Merck, the we as Genius Omnitura and Epigenics Pharmaceuticals in concert from 2001, May 14th, when I got there in Epigenics, 2001. Oh, my name was Nolde. Judy Nolde owns all the patents, the taxpayers. There are no royalties that were ever owned by Tony Fauci. Tony Fauci was a nothing. I never saw him 3 times in my life, and every single time. So that's why they perpetrated a fraud in the press. That's why they created a narrative against Dr. Darrell, because in I believe in 1990 or 1980s, the late 80s, right when I was up there in Upjohn, that is now Pfizer. And I showed you, if we gave bovine growth hormone to cows, we would create fat cows that make no healthy meat, and we would be ingesting the poison. It was exactly what Dell showed on the high wire yesterday. Do Trump, Kennedy know it? Yes, they do. What are they waiting for? Us. We, the people, to get out of their economic system, to get these books, to get these education. It's not the doctor's fault. It's not Jim Thorpe's fault. It's because he humbled himself. He called us in the beginning. He and the beautiful Dr. Deb Biglione. Hopefully, these practitioners will train with all of our Braveheart Nation University. Beautiful Dr. Michael Karlfeld, who also has master classes. Beautiful Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt up and have these places that have levels of practice where they homeopathy. And again, so these are the genes. What are the ribby genes? What are these genes? The mTOR is the sensor, and you have to get leucine. We don't get leucine, essential amino acids. We kill them with Listerine mouthwash. That's why I'm so angry at the PowerPoint that National Health Federation that Peter McCullough showed, all about spike protein. And he stood there in that conference and said, we can't make America great again. America never was great. It enslaved people. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. We didn't do anything in the indigenous people. No, we worked together. We're pilgrims. Back to the 1500, we are the indigenous people. We didn't bring anybody over from Africa. We're not the slave trade, but that's my politics there. My ancestors are coal black, just want you to know. Um, Not on the Willis side. That's why we look like this with the hazel blue eyes. Anyway, so these are the Th1, the Th2 responses. You need one more than the other. You can't get to helper T cells. Why do you think your adaptive immune response is at the level of NF kappa B, nuclear factor kappa beta, and it's sensed by the B regulatory cell, and you'll never get to energy. That's the fatigue. That's the fatigue. Now, Cardio Miracle, the next slide shows you Cardio Miracle. By the way, the nutrient sensing and yeast cell growth. Yeah, and we'll go back to that other one. So this is the Cardio Miracle. And again, when I met John, the label on the bottle, and this was October of 2021. These are the heroes for the faith between David Martin, who showed us the functional forgery and the patents, working with Stan Graham and Pastor Dave Bryan up at Glad Tidings Church, the conferences that we were going to with Henry Ely and everybody back in 2021 in May, right around this time, as a matter of fact, we were up at Pastor Dave Bryant's, another hero, Brian, a hero of the faith at Glad Tidings Church. So when I met John, who the founder, and this is a download from God, if you know his story, in 2007, how interesting. He almost died with appendicitis. Do you know they're making appendicitis an elective surgery? Because people's appendix are bursting. Your appendix is a lymphoid organ. It's bursa in birds. By the way, nattokinase will look like bird flu, folks. And you created it because you listened to somebody other than Jesus Christ. You listened to somebody that just made himself another god, a human who is in full on ego. So when I met John, I said, John, I'm 90% convinced, because I could look at the recipe of the sensors. I could see a pinch of this and a pinch of this. It's not 1 to 1 to 1. You own your recipe. You own the formula, and all you have to do is spin the mushrooms or spin to get the pathway you want. So I said, John, show me the function, because when it functions, and look at the title of this, August 15th, 2022. Notice 3 things. Number 1, the authors are a company that can do this for every powder and every liquid. So not supplements, nutrients. So you prove the function. And so what it says, spectral clustering. What is spectral clustering? Pass a light through it. How do you tell a counterfeit? Hold it up to the light. How do you tell a counterfeit? So this at the molecular and cellular level. So John said, I said, do this study for me. When I met him, October 21st of 2021 at the Truth About Cancer, Ty and Charlene Bollinger in Nashville, Tennessee. And you can see that talk on our website, and we will have it in the university as we cross-pollinate. I like to use, not cross-contaminate, cross-pollinate our strategy. So again, what he did was he showed me that there are 3 things, 3 key pathways. You make vitamin D. So calveoli mediated endocytosis. Let's break that down. You cave in the cell, the membrane envelops around it, and you endocytose a single virus, a single poison, not a big clump of snot, a biofilm. You don't biohack, you nourish your gut, but for a management of nitric oxide, you cannot put nitric oxide in the wrong place when a body's inflamed. You will kill them. And that's why this is not that FDA, and we will never put that crap label you forced us to put on these products again. And I'm telling the CEO that because he's worried about, they took it off Amazon. They create controversy. They create controversy with Nathan Bryan. Nathan Bryan knows from his slides this is enos. He published at IAOMT a couple of months ago. We agree on these mechanisms. It's just that we're being pitted against each other and divided, so we won't understand the true value. And that's really back to that last slide. This is just one slide back, and then I'll finish and we can talk a little bit further. One more forward. So this is the crime. And if we don't take down Abbott Labs, Pfizer, Merck, J&J again, look at the font of this insert, and who is Abbott Labs? Oh, and it's Science. It's the font of the journal Science, where I couldn't say XMRV when I'm kidnapped, held in jail, and all our intellectual property. When I say our, I mean every American, every single American. I worked for you for 22 years on the inside of the government, and then I worked for you in 2 small businesses that were destroyed. One hangs on by a thread, whose patents have been in place for all things COVID since 2010. So Science, everolimus is not rapamycin. Everolimus is a deadly synthetic drug. Peter McCullough characterized it in that talk at the National Health Federation on March 15th. He characterized that as rapamycin. They are not the same thing. He went on Alex Jones' show a couple months earlier, and he said tacrolimus. What do we give AIDS patients so they become AIDS patients? And I mean AIDS patients because it's HIV. And HIV never was LHV. That's Tony Fauci's first gain of function. But Ronald Reagan outsmarted him. Anyway, the everolimus-eluting stent system. This is your informed consent. It says medications were prescribed for you before and after stent placement. Antiplatelet medications. Oh, you mean you're going to create ITP? You mean your blood's not going to clot? Oh, idiopathic, the idiots don't know the pathogenesis? Oh, but they do, because they created a product. They caused a heart attack with a shot, sudden adult death, knowing full well the mechanisms, because we showed them. For the last 40 years, we showed them. And now you have to take aspirin and blood thinning medications that Brilinta. Oh, if Peter McCullough didn't know Brilinta, oh, it's P2Y12 or PY12. Oh, it causes ITP. They're using it in the wrong dose, in the wrong person at the wrong time. So you're out cold because you had a sudden adult death incident. You go into the hospital, your doctor who does not know cardiology, Peter McCullough, that it's inflammation, not lipid. And I don't care. You know what? I've said this. I said it in public. And you know what he didn't do with the beautiful Thomas Levy, cardiologist as well? What he didn't do is show up at the meeting. He changed the time when he was talking so he wouldn't have to see the truth. So it says your doctor or nurse gave you instructions about your medications before you left the hospital. They prevent a blood clot, a thrombus. Well, a thrombosis and a fibrosis are 2 different things, as we discussed, earlier in this talk over the last several weeks. So it says if you have a known hypersensitivity, allergy to or other condition, not advisable to exposure to everolimus. Okay, another synthetic rapamycin, not rapamycin. Rapamycin is the natural product, and it's free. You can have it. Sirolimus is the pill form of the natural products. We'll give it to you. It's cheap, 2 cents. And sirolimus derivative drugs. No, they're not biologics. So your FDA is criminal fraud. But then it gets worse. Metallic stent components, cobalt, chromium, nickel, tungsten, methacrylic. Oh, is it acrylic, a plastic? Polymer, fluoride, deadly fluoride containing polymers, or radio contrast. Oh, they do MRIs every second of every day, don't they? And now every hospital is hospital homicide. And as Dell said, we're all afraid to go there. And that's the fear of God. Stay out of there. Even if you break your arm, go to a practitioner. But it says if you cannot take aspirin or blood thinning medications, also called antiplatelet or anticoagulant therapy, this is not informed consent. You weren't given a choice of what stent that idiot surgeon cardiologist who didn't know his, I was going to say something from his elbow. What are you doing? And so look at the eye, expand on the eye of science. You know, they're laughing at you. Oh, that's the font of the journal Science. Oh, so you trademarked our work and you jailed me, kidnapped me, held me, silenced me, murdered my husband and my daughter-in-law with shit like this? And how many millions of Americans? And you called it COVID? And now that corrupt governor's saying, oh, yeah, we're just going to get you again. You know, that 7%, Abbott. Oh, Abbott, who brought you AIDS. Oh, who brought you remdesivir, Merck, J&J. This is criminal collusion. Your Trump Kennedy administration is doing everything they can, but if you don't wake up now, stop buying. All you need is one powder, two powders, Proimmune, and then the liquids, the beautiful IGF, the energy, everything that Cheryl does, and the practitioners. But we've got to be open-minded to educate.
That is so true, Dr. Judy. I mean, when I'm sitting here listening to you, you're absolutely right. Because I'm constantly trying to educate my clients, and they're like ingrained. I mean, they have done such a good job in the health system to make people think that without them, you'll die. I mean, and to even get my daughter-in-law to be able to change her mind about the simplest things. She has vaccinated my grandchildren with over 20 vaccines, and they're not even 3 years old yet.
And then they got Tylenol, which is worse. That's how they got aspirin out. They created Rye's syndrome. And Tylenol did not pass the Botanical Drug Guidance Act of 2004. It was not grandfathered in. It's murder. Stop it.
You know, I get it. But you see, they really do. They are living in fear that they have got like somehow, if you don't do all these things, your kids can't go to school. They can't do anything. You can't get on a plane. You know, all these things they've told us that is so true, and it's not. We actually have rights. You do not have to vaccinate your children. And it's just, it's fascinating to me that this work, and I am so excited that we've got this group of 18 people, because this is showing us all, they're volunteering their time. They're actually coming from the bottom of their hearts because we need the world to change and wake up now. It's like I want one of those big horns they used in the military. Just want to come around and go, and just, you know, startle everybody into waking up.
Right. Yeah. And it's, again, everyone that we're bringing to the event. And yes, I'm in just so much love and gratitude, because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. And so we get it. The practitioners were lied to. The medical deities are trying to convince you that a cult called scientism has anything to do with science. Medicine is not science. It's the practice. It's the translation. And yes, you were lied to. Right there, our book Plague, the black cover is a multinucleated giant cell, aneuploidy. No, you don't get a cell with multiple nuclei in it unless you can't do what I showed you in those 3 slides today. So pandemic, and there's no one that is coming that wasn't a hero because they were willing, like you, Cheryl, in the early days to listen to me, to like Dr. Darrell Wolfe, not to say, oh, he said milk was poison. Well, yeah, it is. Just like Robert O. Young, the pH miracle. It's pH, potential hydrogen. Your intestines are flaccid. You don't burst energy. Your cells are leaky. We knew SCN4A. We knew SCN5A. 4A is sodium chloride channel in your brain. It's the fourth loop in a G protein. A, T, C, and G, all base pairs of all of life. Ivermectin is a G protein, a purinergic modulator, as is SERM. And we knew what we can do a long time ago. You don't inject it. You powder it. You liquefy it. Ending plague. Somebody is in that. A scholar's obligation at the age of corruption. And what we just did is we highlighted people like Joe Cummins, like and the whole idea of Paximune. Dr. Leem will be with us. Dr. Christina Parks, we all know from her beautiful testimony in Congress and in Michigan. Dr. Avery Jackson, neurosurgeon, who saw this when I was saying it at Autism One, just as Bobby saw it. That's why we can get around the corruption. But what we have to do, don't live